and this is Travis Carter. We're at Carter's Corner, and we have a new chair with us today. I think I've turned his mic on.
You have.
Yes. I remembered 8 weeks of no radio, and I feel lost. I have to admit, it's great being back in the studio. Bill, just so the listeners out there know, Bill is a co-presenter. He's got a show on 89.7. It is... Do you still have a show?
Yeah, I have a drive time show on Thursday mornings between 6 and 9, and then Monday afternoon and Tuesday morning as well.
Okay, so make sure you tune in, listen in at 897fm.com.au. Now, if you do want to listen to this show in particular, Carter's Corner, you can always catch it on my YouTube channel at Travis Carter in the YouTube search. Also, the links to them are all posted on my Facebook. So make sure you look up Carter's Corner on the good old social medias, and you'll be able to find us there. So today, first show back is a very, very interesting one. So we have Bass from the Health Australia Party. He is the upper house candidate for the agricultural region, coming in to have a bit of a chat with us today. Well, not coming in, COVID restriction and everything. So he'll be calling up for a phone interview. We'll also be having Charles Smith from the Member of Legislative Council. So he's the upper house for the West Australia Party. And we also have, he's on the line right this very moment on hold. We've got our very own, and he said he's happy with this name. I didn't make it up, so please don't burn me for this. The Greek from Greece. He's going to come over and tell us what it's like over in the EU. Now, amazingly, we're already getting smashed with a whole heap of comments coming through already, so that is absolutely phenomenal. Now, because obviously we'll be using the phone most of the times, you won't be able to call in for today's show, but feel free to send any text messages in. So the text line is 0418 897 897. So before we go any further, I do need to get into the good old disclaimer. And I made this myself, so please don't laugh at it. It's terrible, Bill. I don't know if you've heard it before. Anyway, we'll be right back after this.
The following program may contain coarse language. Listener discretion is advised.
Opinions expressed on Carter's Corner are entirely independent of the opinions of Radio 89.7 FM's Wise Board, talented management and wonderful sponsors. Carter's Corner respects the right of each individual to hold and express an opinion unfettered by the shackles of political correctness and without fear of quivering in the quicksand of cancel culture. Radio is for entertainment, not censorship.
Oh, that was hilarious. I've been here for not even 5 minutes and I've already forgotten to take our microphones off. So, Bill, he was dancing the jig and I just realized it's to tell me to turn the microphones off.
You're on air. You're on air.
Oh, God, I love it. Community radio all the way. Now, we have the Greek all the way from my laptop because it's crazy expensive to call Greece at the moment. So, the Greek, say hello.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. How's things?
Oh, awesome. Now, people are probably going to go, hang on, you don't sound like Basil Zamplis. What's going on? You've got an Aussie accent. So, the Greek, tell us a little bit about yourself. Yeah. How come you've got a full Aussie dinky die accent?
Right. Well, I was born, educated, raised, lived in Melbourne. Then around 20 odd years later, I was travelling back and forth from Australia to Greece. Going a bit forward, never in my wildest dreams back in 2009 when the first lockdown hit here that I wasn't able to leave the country because all international flights were banned and it got kind of scary at one stage, yeah?
Hang on, I just want to double check something there. You said back in 2009.
2019.
Oh, sorry, you said 2009. I'm thinking, hang on, Greece has been in lockdown for 10 years? How come that's never got to the air?
The whole situation started in 2019, escalated to 2020 as everyone's come to live with.
Yeah.
It's definitely gotten to a point where, how can I explain this to the audience, is that it's reached a point where it's like you're either going to accept the the vaccination and accept what we say to you. Let's just put it that way. Or let me just put it blunt out there, right? It's either you're going to die a financial death or you're going to die of death. One way is you're going to get vaccinated, cool, you're all good. If you get vaccinated, not sure if people are aware of this, but it's been travelling throughout Europe here. They're actually openly discussing having tax incentives for vaccination for vaccinated people and bonuses for vaccinated people.
Okay, so
Now, not
yeah. So one of the things I'm hearing at the moment is where you are right very moment within Greece. Obviously, in Greece and all through the EU, there's hundreds of thousands of deaths due to COVID. So let's, especially with what's been happening in the news over here, let's first of all be clear. Is COVID real? Is the thought in Greece, is the COVID virus a real virus?
right. This is what's happening at the moment. There is a large number of, the majority of citizens are saying, okay, there seems to be something out there that's creating this mass panic and total financial destruction, but we're not seeing the numbers.
Okay.
Right? So it's pretty much a simple thing of a statistical manner if you look at it. Like, if this thing's so deadly, there's only X amount of deaths. But in relevance to other forms of deaths, which is car accidents, heart-related, lung-related, all those medical issues that are related to deaths, this thing's pretty way down the ladder, right?
Okay.
Let's get real about some stuff. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's been expanded to a point where it's gone beyond normal.
Okay,
I'm
fantastic.
not sure if that makes sense to the audience.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to hear. And also, Bill, I don't know if you heard him, he also said that another major contributor of you can't really call it natural suicide, is
another statistic, let's call it.
especially in Australia, for people between the ages of, especially guys, between 14 and 55, number one cause of death is actually suicide. So suicide is a massive issue. So we've got a few questions here coming through already. Someone's already asked, how long has Greece already been in lockdown for? Do you know how long you've been in lockdown and tied up?
Well, guys, we just come out of a total lockdown over the weekend, which was 6 p.m. lockdown. Everything shut down, literally everything. Nothing was open, which meant the only thing that was open were the police stations, emergency services, and I think the service stations. Other than that, everything was locked down. That was from 6 p.m. till 5 a.m. And come today, Monday, we're allowed to go. How's that sound? That sounds so weird. We're allowed to exit the house, obviously with an SMS. You need to send an SMS here to exit the house, or else you have a €300 fine on the spot. There's no questions asked, right? Yeah, you need to send an SMS to exit the house here.
So,
right. So let's just get that out there so people understand what's going on here. So that's become normal now. Right?
Okay, I do have a question on that one. Let's say you're watering your garden in the front yard. Are you allowed on your property, but you have to, because in WA, with the lockdown we just had, you're allowed on your property, you're allowed out to your curb, so you can water your gardens and all that sort of stuff. But you were just saying to leave your house, you have to send a text message.
Yeah, in Greece, how we have in Australia, like the front yard and what have you. Not many houses are like that. They're like flats, units.
Oh, okay,
flats, sorry.
Yeah.
Right. So the moment you exit the property onto public property, which is the footpath, you need to have sent an SMS.
Wow.
It's that simple.
Right.
If I occasionally I left. This was back in 2020.
Yeah.
And I was already in 6 months into lockdown, 4 months into lockdown. So, and it really never set in, but I exited the house to go to the local bakery. And I exited the property and I was walking on a footpath and people were staring at me. At some point I thought, I've got something weird happening with the way I look or what have you. But I realized that I wasn't wearing a mask.
Mm.
So I had to rush back at home, wear a mask. And then everyone was casual that I was actually wearing a mask about it. So the thing is that the weird part is that the bakery from my home is about 20 metres, 30 metres at max.
Mm-hmm.
When I entered the bakery, everyone's greeting you, what have you, and it's pretty friendly because society here is friendly. They said, did you end up sending an SMS? I said, to where? And they were like, you never sent an SMS? And I was like, no, should I? They go, of course. And it really set in that people, it's become a normal thing and that's what's disturbing at the moment. And people are not realising that it's like it's getting to a point where if you don't hear of a new restriction being imposed, you think something's not right. Does that make sense?
I hate to say it, but it does, in a very, very scary sort of way. Yeah. Oh, wow. Bill, thoughts?
Well, look, I don't think.
Let me put it to you this way, right? 3 weeks ago, the outlets, the media outlets here, obviously they work in parallel to what laws need to be set forth to the public, right? Mm-hmm. Let's just get that straight out. So there was about 3 weeks ago a nice little trickle of news that we need to compulsory download an app, right? So that app would allow us 2 hours to conduct our consumer business, which meant if I wanted to go to your shop and purchase a T-shirt or runners or anything, I had 2 hours to do that. Right? Now this had a clock on it. This app had a clock on it, a timer. Right? This was a suggestion that was made. It needs to be downloaded by everyone. Now, if everyone says, "Hey, I don't have a smartphone," yeah, okay, you don't have a smartphone. So what you got to do there is you got to get a piece of paper, right? And that paper you need to write on that piece of paper where you're exiting from, where you're travelling to, time, to and from. So you think, yeah, okay, I'll do that, but I can always dock the paper and the time zone and the time. But people don't understand that when there's a lockdown, I'm not sure how it is there at the moment, but there's a lot of police around. There are a lot of police. So eventually you get caught in the net. So you may escape 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. In a month you get caught up, and if you do that repeatedly, that's when the thousands of euros start accumulating in fines, and it's not a joke. It's people have been fined 3,000 euros. It's about $4,000 or what have you.
Wow, that's insane.
$5,000. It's quite normal to hear those fines going around.
So,
right?
Oh, wow! Like, I one of my favorite movies of all time is V for Vendetta. And there's the curfews. I know it's a fictional movie, but that book was 1984 is also a fictional book. But the curfews on that were strict, like to the point where if you were out of home by a certain date, you were going to jail and you weren't coming back out. Is Greece at that point yet?
Well, I woke up in the morning, had my coffee, and I opened the internet. I switched on the TV just to see what's going on. And there's the what do you call him? There's a health minister says new lockdowns coming into March, new hard lockdown, which means we're going into complete lockdown, which means 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. nothing can exit the house. That's that simple.
That's V for Vendetta all the way. Bill, how would you survive if you were stuck in that?
I've just found the last week of lockdown almost intolerable. I mean, I'm 68, so I'm an older person and I guess slower. I don't necessarily run around the block. I walk around the block. But I found that last week enormously frustrating based on the fact that it was one person who didn't contaminate anyone else. Then in Victoria, we have the same scenario, or exactly the same scenario. Mm-hmm. I think even throwing in the African, Scandinavian, European version, highly contagious. And they had a family of contagions there where the family got the virus. And yet there was not an immediate lockdown of the entire city of Melbourne. They kind of managed it, and that's what I'd like to see. I'd like governments to look at these things and kind of manage it carefully. Because my observation is this: if you're a pensioner and you're not working, you're as happy as a pig in the proverbial, and you will do whatever the government tells you to do because they're protecting me. They're protecting us. I think government public servants. Not an issue because they're still getting paid.
Yeah, it's the taxpayers'
so it's not an issue. They didn't lose anything. In fact, they got to work and not They got to not work and get paid in some instances.
And if you have a look at a lot of like third-year apprentices, they actually got more money sitting at home on the JobKeeper than what they did actually working and developing the trade.
Absolutely. But the people who are suffering are those businesses out there. From 1 week to the next, they do not know whether they'll be open or closed. We've been lucky in WA. I mean, let's face it.
So what I want to do, that you've actually brought up a really good point. So the Greek, we do need to go to a message from our sponsors very, very shortly. So we're going to do that in a moment. But I want to start talking about the economic impact that this has caused, especially to small businesses over in Greece, because I talk to small businesses a lot, and a lot of them are actually panicking, and JobKeeper hasn't really been that great of a thing to keep them going. And when you put all the small businesses together in Australia, they are by far our greatest employers. So what we'll do, we'll go to a quick message, and we'll be back very, very shortly. This is Carter's Corner, and we are still in the studio. We're still live. We're still kicking. Travis Carter, Bill's across the road from me, and all the way from little old Greece. Yes, that's right. We are now an international radio station. I don't know how that works, but anyway, we got him on the good old Skype. The Greek. Welcome back. Well, you're still here.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm here.
All right, so before we went to, it was supposed to be messages and a song, but I did the song and then the messages. Oh God, I'm just on fire tonight, absolutely on fire. I'm so rusty. We were starting to talk about the economical impacts that the coronavirus or COVID-19 and now COVID-20, as I like to call the UK strand, is having on the Western Australian economy. But the EU is even different to what we have over here. So the Greek, enlighten us. What's happening business-wise, in particular, small businesses? Have you noticed a lot of small businesses going under?
Noticing? Well, 1 in 3 or actually 1 in 4 are actually just rolled down the shutters, and that's it. They've just declared bankruptcy. And the president here of the Commerce more or less announced, which was 2 days ago, that if this lockdown continues into 21, or the end of halfway into 21, it means 1 in 2 business will go into bankruptcy. It's that simple. There's people. I'm not sure what's happening there, but you got to understand the way things are here is that the only way people are keeping afloat at the moment is through government grants. But we all know that these loans, money isn't infinite. So at some point, the government's going to say, right, this is what I feel is going to happen, is that, okay, where the population has been vaccinated. At the moment, we only have something like 200,000 people vaccinated at 11 million or 12 million, I can't remember. Mm-hmm. But so they're just more or less going to say that, okay, now 40% of the population has been finally vaccinated, is what they're going to announce. Here's your tax incentive, here's your tax bonuses, here's your tax deduction. And I'll be on the other spectrum of that, saying I haven't been vaccinated, so I'll be paying 32% tax. You have been vaccinated, we'll be paying 12% tax. So in a way, you're being forced into getting what you really have not been assured that is like completely safe, right? So the businesses are failing. It's obvious. Everyone understands this. There's no two ways about it. People are losing their minds because someone poured $100,000, or $50,000 into a business and they've been shut down for the last 8 months.
Yep.
And the only way they're keeping afloat is because the government's giving them €1,000. But that's, it's not doing anything. You're just prolonging death. That's what's happening here at the moment. So it gets to a point where the business owner will say, right, I either comply or I shut down and go live in the pastures. It's that simple. I mean, I'm not sure how people are understanding this. It's you either got to do what they say or you don't do it, and be off with it. Go, leave. Go to a farm or something, live off the farm or whatever you have to do, but you can't survive in the city. I mean, the news is quite weird here because on one spectrum they're saying human rights. I mean, Greece is a really strict personal privacy policy here, very strict, one of the strictest in the European Union. But whereas what kind of personal information can be allowed to be, given to the public or accessed. But on the other aspect, they're saying, right, we're providing your safety, we're providing your financial needs. You do not need to do anything other than just come to us. But that more or less is decapitating what capitalism is all about, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I want to open a business. Sure, everyone would like to open a business and earn a decent revenue. But the moment you're getting restricted on how many hours and what type of people you're allowed to serve, you're more or less just putting a noose on capitalism itself.
So just so I'm 100% clear on this one, if you don't get the jab, you don't be taxed through the nose.
Yeah.
And then let's say you're a business owner who's taxed through the nose anyway, and you haven't been vaccinated, they don't tax you even more. But if you're a business...
More or less that's what's happening. It's what's been trickling through so-called B and C class politicians, which don't actually handle the policy of making, but they're like trickling through the media. So it's been put forth the last few days that this is what they're suggesting, but it's not going to be like that. It's wrong. It's fake news and this and that. And I'll bet you now in 6 months this is what's exactly going to happen.
Yep.
Right? So if you, Travis, have a cafe store, right, in the city, I'll put it to you this way, or anything, or a bakery or anything, and you are vaccinated, you will have obviously a tax incentive. Now, you can only serve people who will have a compulsory app on their phone to enter the store.
So you can't even serve to people who haven't been vaccinated. So not only are you taxing them through the nose, they can't even go into the shops that aren't open because all the rest that aren't vaccinated are closed because they can't afford to stay in business. So what about all the people, like my question here, what about the jobs? Like what's the unemployment? Do you know what the unemployment rate is like over there at the moment?
Oh, it's about 15-18%, somewhere there. I don't have the actual figures in front of me.
So that's about the same as Australia at the moment.
Yeah, what's going on here? A lot of people about what their aim, they've openly said this, is 70% of the workforce needs to work from home. So here lies where the restriction to exit the property, you need to be vaccinated. This is what is like in play at the moment. So if you're vaccinated, I can go into your office, Carter, and knock on your door and say, hi, I'm here to ask if there's any jobs available, right? If I'm vaccinated. If I'm not vaccinated, the restrictions are there in place that allow you to work, but you will be only allowed to work from home. Right?
Look, one question I would have is, what is it about someone that has not been given the inoculation? What's the difference? I would have thought if everyone's been given the jab on this thing, then they're so-called protected from it. So an individual who doesn't get the needle, why are they so bad? Why is it that they are so bad? Because all that can happen is that they catch the virus.
Yeah. Just quickly, I've sent through. This is a great thing about having a producer. He does fact checking. So Australia was at 15% unemployment. It's actually now dropped back down to 6.6. Is that for Australia, Dwayne? So I'm just waiting for a message from the producer. But what these unemployment figures don't count is they don't count, I'm trying to remember the word, non-participating people. So I'm a stay-at-home father, so I don't count for the unemployment stats. So all the stay-at-home parents, the retirees, the kids that are too young to have a job, or the kids between 14 where they can get a job or they're still in school, like they're still going to university, they don't count towards unemployment figures. So he's just confirmed. So that's Australia is 6.6%. So can you have a look for me at the non-participation rate for employment? Participation rate increased to 66.2%. So that means there's, if my maths is correct, 35.8% of the population is not participating in employment. So that's 1/3 of the country is not participating in employment because of JobKeeper, JobSeeker, Stay at Home, whatever. There's all these other things. From memory, it used to be around 80% for the participation rate for employment. It used to be a lot higher than that. I remember reading an ABC article about it that it was huge. It was an absolute massive number, especially when the first lot, I'm talking way back, and I think it was March last year when they first started doing the lockdowns. They predicted a 15% unemployment rate with an additional 20% non-participation rate. So we were looking like a 35% unemployment rate when they did the first lot of shutdowns. So yeah, so it does get.
Can I ask a question here?
Of course you can.
Yeah. What does the general public feel like?
Oh,
like the average person, the average guy who listening at the moment and is thinking, "Wow, this guy's in Greece and he's in total lockdown." Keep in mind, I've been in lockdown in and out for well over 8 months.
Yeah, so I might let Bill handle this one because I know the people I hang around, a lot of them, I do a lot of protests and stuff like that. So overwhelmingly, people that I hang around with are upset about this. So obviously, me and Bill hang around different circles. So I'll let Bill answer this one.
Look, as I say, I'm retired now. I'm an older Australian.
Well, you don't say an older alcoholic then.
Older? No, I haven't got onto that yet.
Last week I nearly did.
No, I've tried, but I just can't handle a drink.
Yeah.
But I think I'm finding there's certainly in my age group, the older generation, particularly those who are supported by the government, think everything's fantastic. They think wearing a mask and being locked away and all those sort of things is a fantastic measure. Bearing in mind that in WA we've been very lucky in that we've had very little effect from, let's be honest, compared to other parts of the world or even the East Coast. And again, people working for the large corporations, they're loving the fact that they can work from home. But it's that middle level of small business, which is, I think you said before, that's the majority of employers in our economy. Mm-hmm. They are the ones that are suffering, and they're suffering from the, I guess the what's the term? There's no continuity to the way that this thing is treated. I think what's happening now is that governments, state governments, let's say, because that's the ones that are running this game, they're tending to be very inconsistent.
Yep.
And to me, when you manage anything, you can manage it in a very fine manner. So you can say, okay, well, we'll do these things here and we'll do those things there, which takes a lot of logistics, takes a lot of work, takes a lot of management. Or else you just say, look, it's just easy just to throw a blanket thing over this thing and just let's just cover everybody. And I think that's what happened last week. That's my impression of last week, is that a blanket was thrown over this thing before we really knew what was going on. Yep. Now, I mean, I'm not privy to what goes on in the halls of power. I'm just a simple-minded 68-year-old. But I was enormously upset last week when this all happened, and I'm even more upset that we're running around with masks on at the moment, understanding all of what we're trying to achieve, but personally, it doesn't sit well with me.
Yep. I have to say, because I do suffer from asthma quite severely at times, I did try to wear a mask. The wife works at the education department, so we got a couple from there. They're the proper surgical masks. They're supposed to be right on, the beautiful, amazing. The moment I put it in, one breath, all the little tiny fibers went in, bang, asthma attack straight away. So I'm one of the very, very few people who do have a medical clearance not to wear a mask. Now, there's two issues here I want to quickly discuss. My GP, when I went down to get the things, he actually said apparently they've been instructed from WA Health to not give out medical exemptions from masks, full stop. So I had to fight and argue with my GP to get the medical clearance for it. And I actually showed him. I put a mask on, bang, asthma attack straight away. And so he reluctantly gave me one. But he only did it for tonight's show. So in Greece, are they giving people medical clearances not to wear a mask?
There are circumstances, and especially for vaccination, keep in mind. Mm-hmm. If someone has a medical issue with let's say with certain aspects of medicine or fruits or nuts and what have you, they have some sort of issue, they are allowed not to get vaccinated. But there is the next gen vaccination coming around the corner, from what I understand, so they will be vaccinated. But getting back to the point, look, you may have a medical exemption, right? That you cannot wear a mask. If this has happened here, it's nothing new, right? You'll get fined, and then you have to fight your way out of court. It's that simple. You're not. I'm not sure I'm painting the picture correctly here, but you need to wear a mask, full stop. We don't care what you say, who you are, and what you think about anything. You wear a mask, otherwise you get fined. You repeat that, it's 300. It goes up to 500 euros, and it's an escalation level. So unless you're Elon Musk and you've got a couple of billion there, keep wearing a mask.
Wow.
It's what they've put out to you. You understand? It's like
I
you know,
find it.
you really have you have no option. That's what I'm trying to get across.
I find it amazing that they're not even entertaining the fact that you could have a legit medical reason for not wearing your mask. They're just going straight to the fine. Yeah, the courts will deal with it. About 6 months ago, I actually fought a speeding ticket because they dated it wrong and I wasn't able to pay it. So I said, look, just fix the speeding fine and I'll go pay it. And they didn't. So they late noticed me and then they charged me an extra $150 on top of it. So I thought, no, I'm going to fight this one. So I fought it. And I found out that it cost nearly $30,000 because the police officer ended up withdrawing it because he admitted he wrote the wrong date. So for something we both agreed on, it cost the taxpayer nearly $30,000 to fight this fine because there was 3 court cases that didn't have to happen. With all these people doing these court cases, these fines, the lockdowns, the stimulus packages, I'm doing some quick calculations in my head. And, you know, fines plus court cases plus police plus stimulus, that equals an absolute bucket load of money. Pre-COVID, when they were still coming out of the global financial crisis, that was still struggling then. Where's Greece getting the money to afford all these stimulus packages?
Oh, that's quite simple. It's the ECB, it's the European Central Bank.
So then they're not even using their own money for it. They're borrowing money.
No, because the European Union has a central banking system where it says, all right, they allocate X amount of money for every country based on its population and its GDP. So Greece is entitled to X amount of billions of euros, and Germany X amount, and what have you. So every country in the EU currently is working on loans, is using loans to try and stay afloat. So we all know when you have a loan, it needs to be repaid back, right? It's pretty much that simple. If people aren't aware of it, I mean, I can give you X amount of loans, but at one stage, at one point, the bank is going to say, right, time to pay back. And that's when the crunch will happen. So that tax incentive we were mentioning earlier, that's where it's going to come into play, because the government's going to say, right, okay, we've allocated 50 billion euros due to the COVID. Now we need to tighten our belts and unite. So let's get the businesses back up and running. So to do that, though, you need to have the vaccination policy in process, which means you cannot serve the general public unless the general public has been vaccinated, and those who have been vaccinated are free to come in and do what they want to do. And you as a business owner can do the same thing, providing you are vaccinated, or you have what we have here. What's coming into effect is a digital vaccination passport. Right, so you'll need to present that when you enter an establishment, or you'll be with an NFC or some sort of response where you enter the store, it'll flash a green light. I'm not sure how these are going to be implemented, but it's more or less a given that is how it's going to all pan out in the not too distant future. I'm not talking 10 years, I'm talking about 2 years, 3 years. That's the way I see it.
What I'm hearing is it's like a country has just racked up so much debt that they won't be able to afford to be a country anymore, and that they'll just disappear as a country as a whole. Do you think there will be a Greece in 5 years' time?
Oh, definitely. I mean, this isn't something that was thought out on the fly. This has been in plan for I'd say easily a decade, because everything is falling into place. It's like a puzzle, right? Where you have all the pieces on the floor and you're trying to create the picture. And you think, oh, okay, let's put this one here. Oh, bam, that's a nice picture there. That goes there. That goes. So this is what I'm feeling. It's like a puzzle that's been put in play last 10 years, and in the last 2 years, from 2019 when this thing erupted, you've just seen how rapidly the global economy just shut down.
So I do need to. Sorry to cut you off there. I was so enthralled in what's going on in Greece, I lost track of the time. So we do need to go to another message from our sponsors. So we're just going to quickly go to that. And then what we'll do, we'll wrap up after the messages, because this has been fascinating. I really, really want to keep talking to you. So please don't go away. We'll wrap up. And then after that, we'll get Bass on the phone from the Health Australia Party for WA. All right, so this is Carter's Corner with Travis Carter. We've got Bill on the other side of the desk. Carter's Corner, all the way live, airing. It'll be up on the YouTube tomorrow. Also, don't forget, with these on the promotional video, you can put comments in there. They do get sent to us in the studio. So for the people listening in, if you do want to ask us a question direct, text line 0418 897 897, or you can just put it onto the good old Facebook. So we do have the Greek all the way with us from Greece. He has been phenomenally awesome. And I'm blown away what's happening in the Europe at the moment. And I hate to say it, if Mark McGowan had his way, we're probably not far behind it, to be honest. He does have an election coming up, 13th of March. We were supposed to have a Labor person tonight, but there was a scheduling conflict, apparently. So hopefully we can get him in next week. But our producer's been working very, very hard. We might have a Greenie.
Excellent.
That's going to be awesome. So the Greek, we were talking about obviously what's going on, the constant lockdowns, the forced vaccinations, the forced tracking with the mobile apps, and if you don't have it, you've got to have the document things and the money side of things and how bad the actual employment is. I've just been sent an article. Apparently Germany is looking at putting people into who have not been vaccinated, so the people that are refusing to be vaccinated, they want to put them into, I'm going to use the word shelter, because we are a community radio station and I don't want to get into trouble, but if you read between the lines, it's
compulsory shelter.
Yes. Just hopefully less glasses of juice. Anyway, is this a legit thing, or is this just some more fake news that's being circulated?
Is it real? The news is circulating. The city is Dresden, if anyone's aware of it. That's in close to the borders of Czechoslovakia and Poland.
Mm-hmm.
It is more or less. It will become official. It hasn't become official through the 16 states of Germany, which is the Chancellor Merkel. So what they're implying, what they're saying is straight out, flat out, that former detention centres that were used for illegal immigrants crossing the border without proper documentation, they will be used for people who conduct protests, for people who are anti-vaccine, etc., etc., etc. So there'll be like am I allowed to use the terminology reform centre?
Reform centre, right. I like that one.
If I'm allowed to use it. So there'll be psychologists in there, there'll be doctors in there who want to know why you are not wanting to get vaccinated. Do you see where it's...
Oh, God, I really don't want to use that C word. When you know you don't have very good concentration. Oh, yeah. God. Oh, yeah. Germany, why again? Why?
Look, the tourist organisation here in this country, who has a massive amount of tourism, which is about 50 million or so, 50 plus million of tourists every summer. The big resorts, the chain resorts is what we call them. They've openly said it, that employees who want to apply for jobs here need to be vaccinated. Guests who want to come to these chain resorts need to supply documentation, digital documentation. So,
isn't there a charter that says you're not allowed to discriminate against people for medical conditions?
Well, it's gotten to a point where I think they don't care about your medical condition. You need to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Okay.
So your medical condition is you're not vaccinated.
Exactly. So the moment you mentioned earlier, look, you have a problem, you can't wear a medical mask. That's fine with me. That's cool. Here's the fine. Go to court. Find your way out of that. We don't care. I don't want to. It's 2-minute paperwork for me. Yeah. You can go do the rest of the thing. The funny odd thing is that this country here is being supplied with facial recognition cameras for the police. So
I'd love to know who gave that to you.
The police do not require to ask you. Currently, we have an ID here, like everyone has an ID.
Yeah.
So, when you get pulled over, they won't ask for that ID. That camera will be linked into the main central database. That database will hold your private details, which do include your medical status. Hence, if you have some mental disorder or psychosis or what have you, so they know how to handle you as a person, as a civilian. So that will include specific details on your medical issue. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I don't know if you're aware of this or not. The government had a real massive push to get everyone to sign up to the MyGov account, to the point where all your health records and everything was going to be linked to your MyGov account. I'm saying wonder, and then because they also had the cash ban, the ban on $10,000 transfers, and all this sort of stuff, trying to force everyone to go to the digital. I wonder if all of that was preparation for something like what's going on now.
Well, I did say earlier that this has been a 10-year plan. So if you guys remember when Greece shut down its banks?
Yeah, not really.
Yeah, and everyone was in
Bill
line.
remembers.
Yeah,
Or what have you?
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So all these pensioners who were unable, like 70 plus years old, to use ATM machines, it was like totally new to them. It was like an alien object, right? So these guys had to get the kids and grandkids to show them how to use an ATM machine. So fast forward now, the government, which was about a week ago, I think, announced that they'll be closing. There'll only be one teller in each bank. One teller. Everything will be conducted on a digital level. One teller, which means it'll only handle specific transactions up to a certain amount. I think it was about €1,000.
Yep. Wow.
So it's definitely getting really, really weird for people who aren't aware of what's going on in Europe, because it's a lot of population, 270 odd million people. And what I've said to a few friends here is, look, this country's 11 million, so whatever fast call process they want to implement, they'll do it into this country where the civilian population can be managed. So whatever responses occur from the general public, they will know what will happen if you impose those new restrictions or laws on a country with 40 million people or 50 million people or 80 million people. You understand?
Yeah, I'm starting to paint a picture. That's a lot to take in. Like, I knew it was bad from what I see on the news and all that sort of stuff, but I had no idea it was that bad. But one thing I do want to touch in, we've only got a couple of minutes before we have to start calling our next guest. I did just bring up the news then. Over in WA, we are getting 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. all over YouTube, Facebook, all the advertising everywhere is pretty much nothing but Mark McGowan saying how great he is. There's nothing else on the news over in WA about this. What's the news like in Greece and in Europe? Is it the same sort of thing where it's just focusing on the COVID and the restrictions and nothing else, or is there an actual half decent, let's say, truth in media? Is there a half decent truth over there?
Okay, truth in media. Let's be real about this. Here, the way I see the media here and what through the various channels, networks, is that this is the outlay of the media. One, COVID, which is about 20, 25 minutes into the news, full stories, cross links into various countries. Then you go into the Turkish aggression towards Greece, which Turkey is freaking out about the Greek islands, saying they're not yours, they're ours, and they're sending the warships. That's going all haywire.
Yep.
Then we go back to COVID. Then we go back to parties that are being conducted by 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds. 2 to 3 days ago, there was a party down the road to me, and the police were called to the residence. Right, they never found they were called there. So when they entered the property, the guy tried to usher 2 women out the balcony to the next door balcony so they won't get fined to €300. Now, this was on the fourth floor, so you understand how irrational things are getting.
Wow, it's getting out of control. I wonder how long until things start getting nasty. So hopefully you can stay safe while you're over there. And I do need to wrap this one up because wow. Bill, thoughts?
Look, there's obviously 2 political parties. There's 5 political parties. One party is full pro, going full blown. You need to get vaccinated. The opposition party is non-existent. It's not even voicing an opinion. It'll voice an opinion on irrelevant matters.
Sounds like our Liberal Party in WA.
Yeah, so you're sitting back and understanding, okay, so we've got a 5-party political system, but no one's actually saying no.
So they're all saying yes. They're all bending over and proverbially taking it in the arm with the vaccine.
There are guidelines that have been set forward. Everyone needs to go with the guidelines.
Oh, wow. That's okay. Well, Greece is off my holiday list.
Yeah.
No, the people are crazy friendly here.
I know that. I just don't want to deal with your government. So, all right. So we have to wrap it up there. You have been absolutely...
I'm not sure you can hear the jets flying above now, so...
Don't tell me
something going.
it's the military keeping an eye on you because they know you're on the radio. By the way, for the listeners, that's a joke. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
anyway,
not real.
So we do need to wrap it up on this one. We do need to give our next guest a call. The Greek, you've been phenomenal. Keep us in the loop. If there's any new updates or anything like that, let us know because I'll be honest with you, there's not much reporting about what's happening over in Europe. It's just, there's this many 100,000 died today, and that's about it. So thank you very much for coming onto the show today. We're going to go and hit up another message from our sponsors. They keep the lights on, which is awesome. And then after that, we will be giving a young gentleman by the name Bass a call from the Australian Health Party. So this is Carter's Corner with Travis and Bill across the desk. We'll be right back after these messages. Carter's Corner, Travis Carter is back here with Bill across the chair from me. And on the line, we have Bass from Health Australia Party. Bass, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, Travis. Thanks for having me.
Hey, not a problem at all. So first of all, your last name, I totally forgot. It was Tadros?
Yes, you did really well. It is Tadros. It's phonetic.
Fantastic.
And it does sound like it's spelt and spelt like it sounds.
Fantastic. No, I'm my wife's Vietnamese, and the way they spell her name, it's like loan, like a car loan. And she hates it with a passion when people call her loan. So we actually changed the spelling so people don't butcher the spelling so much. So, I totally understand when people get your name wrong. So I do apologize if I do butcher it. Now, you are actually running for the Health Australia Party in the upper house in the agricultural region. So pretty much everything north of Ellenbrook. South Geraldton, is all good.
It's quite large territory. Yeah, it's the size of the state of Victoria. So it spans from Esperance through the Wheat Belt and all the way up through Geraldton to Kalbarri.
Yep. So it's effectively just the Wheat Belt. You just said that. Sorry, I'm trying to read your notes that you sent through to us earlier today. With the Health Australia Party, obviously with everything that's going on with COVID and all that sort of stuff, what does the Health Australia Party, what do they bring to this election? What are they hoping to achieve?
Well, obviously we have very, very big ambitions in terms of what we'd like to see happen. We do have a vision, and it's a bright one. It's a vision of healthy people, and we noticed that if we just went with the focus on a healthy person, let's say you, Travis, if we wanted Travis to be healthy, we can't just focus on your personal health because all the other elements impact that. So, for example, the environment impacts Travis's health. The economy, if you were struggling with finances, that would impact your health, and it will also impact your household's health. Clean air, clean water, clean food. So we couldn't be a single focused party. We had to basically think about all these elements and encompass them. And we do that really well with the 5 pillars, which is healthy people, healthy environment, economy, democracy, society. And it looks like we couldn't have come at a better time. It's like now or never.
Yeah, to be honest, we need a lot more variety in our politics at the moment. And if the news is anything to go by, the government's having an absolute field day. So one of the big things that has been coming up recently, where did you put in your list? Sorry, I'm just having a quick read. So how do you guys hope to achieve the connection between all the healthy body, healthy mind, the spirit, and how do you get them all together to bring everything to fix the health of everything, especially at the moment when our farmers, the suicide rates within our farmers is through the roof. The suicide rates caused because the COVID lockdowns is the increase is massive. I heard a report last year there was over 3,300 male suicides. I'm not sure about female suicides. I haven't seen any stats on that one yet. So what does the Health Australia Party hope to achieve to fix some of that? So how would you like to fix it?
Well, the first step is always the first step, Travis, and that's to get elected.
Yes,
so
true. Okay, yes, true.
Yep. We've got to come in this election, and the state election opens up sooner than most people think. So the 22nd of February is when the early centres open up for voting, for early voting. Yep. And then the 13th of March is obviously the the finale of the state elections. So first thing is we need to get seats in Parliament. If we can get a couple of seats in, then we can hope to balance things out. We know for a fact that we're not going to, win overall power and become government for WA. This is just not possible at this stage. The biggest concern for anybody that's listening that values democracy in our society is that if the Labor Party has more seats in the upper house and lower house, it won't be a democracy anymore. It'll be much more leaning towards a dictatorship, and it will completely compromise our systems of democracy.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of nods from Bill on that one, so he agrees wholeheartedly with you on that one. So,
good on you, Bill.
Yeah.
Well, yes, just be careful with your neck. I'm very careful when I speak to people that are very agreeable, that they don't put their neck out. So, look, the other thing is we've got to have a holistic approach towards life and towards everything that we're having. We're living in a very, very interesting time. If anything, that the last interviewer, the person that you've interviewed just before from Europe, from Greece, if that's anything to go by, then we've really got to be careful about the danger that society faces at this time. And what we're seeing at large, because mindset, mental health, suicide rate is something that's very big on my radar, and something that I've been doing. I left the corporate world 10 years ago to just specifically focus on that, to help people dealing with stress and other things. And if we don't take all those matters seriously, where we're heading is not a very fun place to be.
Yep.
We're already experiencing that with mandatory masks and things of that liking. I'd love to see the Deputy Chief Health Doctor, Dr. Andrew Robertson, show us the scientific evidence of where masks are actually going to prevent the transmission of this virus.
Well,
or anything of that kind. That would be brilliant.
Yeah, I just want to quickly jump in here because it's really interesting that you brought that topic up. There was a article from the Chief Health Officer, I think it was June 2020. So it's a very recent article. It's when the first lot of lockdowns happened and everyone was clearing the shelves of toilet paper and masks and all that sort of stuff, and WA just went crazy. He did an article about how healthy people should not be wearing a mask. And then fast forward 6 months.
And I agree.
Yeah,
I
fast
totally
forward
agree
6 months, and why this sudden there's a massive change in the stance from the chief health officer. So I'm very, very interested to see why. I'd love to know why he's done a total backflip on that issue. Now, it's really good that you did bring that up, because when we were talking during the week about organising this show, I did flick a question through to you. I did want to see obviously you can't answer 100% for the party, but for yourself, I asked you to have a look at a bit of legislation, which is the Health Act 2015. It's legislation that was snuck through by the Liberal government. I think it was the Barnett government at the time. In particular, section 138, I think it is from memory. Dwayne, you can confirm this one for me. It's the one where the government has a right to force any medical procedure onto a person during a state of emergency. At the moment in the community, there's a massive call to get that removed because there's no checks and balances to even that out. So there's no one so the chief health officer isn't elected in, and he can assign a health officer to say, right, sorry, I've just had it confirmed, section 158, part C of the Health Act. So the person who decides the medical procedure is not elected in. The person who assigns the officer who will go out and tell someone, right, you need to have your big toe removed, or you need to have a lobotomy, or you need to be castrated, or whatever it is not elected and doesn't even need to be a medical officer. They don't even need a medical training background or anything like that. You can pick any Joe Blow off the street. And on top of that, they don't need to identify themselves. Do you think this is something that the Health Australia Party is willing to take up to say, right, we need these to do this democratically? We need to make sure that there's sufficient checks and balances in place to make sure the legislation that was passed released in previous years and under different governments is actually balanced and fair for the Australian people?
Yeah, well, we definitely need that to be actually removed, because there's no room in the life and in the society of a free country, which is what most people come to Australia for, is a free country. There's no room for anything like that to exist, where somebody comes into your house and forces you. I've read that particular article that you've referred to, and it is horrific. There are people in the community that have written to us and that have expressed their horror of just the thought of it. Somebody forcing themselves into their house, removing objects like, pants and whatever, and it could actually be, you were saying it could be an official that's representative of the Deputy Chief of Health, or it could actually be a police officer. I think it's stated, or at least somebody mentioned that in one of their concerned letters to us. And so I don't know who brought that in, and if they were in their right mind, or what they were thinking, and why that snuck in at such opportune timing is also an interesting thing. So these things need to be removed, and all these other ideas of particular laws being passed in the middle of the night without anybody's consent or consultation, that needs to be checked as well.
Yep.
I don't really know who's doing that and who agrees with that, and whoever wrote that, would they agree for that to happen to their family and their family members?
Yep.
I don't think they'd be nodding their head, right? So we need, in fairness, to be reviewing the risks of what we're putting our community through from a mental health state point, which is deteriorating fast because of fear and manipulation. Even the mask idea, just to go back to that for a moment, there are people that are suffering because they have panic attacks. And so, and there are people that have medical exemptions. But unfortunately, when they walk around, if they were going to their local shopping centre or post office, they also suffer because other people are looking at them and discriminating towards them because they're not wearing their mask.
Yeah, very true.
And that's causing a lot of stress. Are you nodding again, Bill? Is that you?
I am, because a mate of mine said that he had his mask down one day because he was having a bit of trouble breathing whilst he was going for a walk, and some elderly gentleman blasted him for not having his mask on. So we've even got civilian police out there dictating or policing it as well.
And it's sad because it's another divide, right? And this is what we've got to really be careful of. We've got to unite people and stand together as a community rather than divide people.
Yep, 100% agree with you on that one. And I know you don't like the head nodders, but when you say something smart, I have to agree. And it's really funny what Bill said, because I don't know if you heard, I've got a medical exemption. I don't have to wear a mask because of my asthma. I'm a stay-at-home father, so I walked my two daughters to school. And my youngest walks back home with me. I got balled up by the school principal today. Yesterday evening, had a few very choice words to say in front of me, in front of all the kids. And he did not like it when I told him no. So he got a little bit, got the steam up him on that one. So it's a shame because he's actually a really, really cool teacher. He's done a wonderful job with the school and I don't live in the greatest area. I live near Kelmscott. So there's a few troubled young kids down there. And he's done a phenomenal job. Now, we've had a question come in from a caller or like a viewer. It's a good thing we're past the language bit. So this is directly from a viewer. This is not us in any way. And quote, if a virus is so small it can't be seen with a microscope, then isn't a mask like and I'm going to paraphrase, a penis in a trouser leg to a vagina?
Well, I love their colourful language, but
I had to tidy it up a bit there.
Thank you. I appreciate both you and that particular listener or viewer for writing in and stating that, or asking it, whichever way it goes. I had a very, very interesting conversation with a PhD in immunology and microbiology, so that I can get a scientific response and answer. And he used a metaphor that's not too dissimilar to what that viewer actually said.
I wonder if it was your doctor that sent it through.
It could actually be him disguised, because he's not allowed to state his opinion for fear of losing his job. That's the kind of world we live in, which is absolutely horrific.
Yeah,
so
freedom.
He said,
freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech, academic. Exactly. And so he said something along the lines of, it's like using chicken wire fence to stop smoke.
Yeah, I'll pay that one. I'll pay that.
Yeah. And he basically said they are completely ineffective. If you look at the World Health Organization, it states that as well. And they've done a couple of backflips on things. They'd say one thing, the next day they change it. Oh, we didn't mean that. But at the end of the day, if we go back to the very earlier statement that you said, which is a brilliant one from June 2020, where the same Deputy Chief Health for WA stated that having masks on healthy people is not recommended. I mean, that in itself really should state that would be a perfect statement for all those people out there that are calling and harassing and pulling people up on it. And I think the issue is there are a lot of people that agree with what we're saying here, but people want to fit in. And that's just human nature. It's human psychology. So a lot of people are wearing it, not just to be compliant, but it's more like they don't want to stand out. And that in itself is a little sad, because I'm okay with standing out. I'm actually okay with not wearing it. And I've gotten pulled up a few times, and I've said I'm exempt. And you could be too if you choose to research it and have a look at how it affects you. Or you could choose to wear it. That's completely up to you as well. That they're both your call. And that comes back to free will and, freedom of choice. And no one, I mean, there are some crazy things happening in America where their chief of health has basically said you have to wear 2 masks. Now you have to wear 3 masks.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering if they're trying to see how far they can take this joke, and when people are going to say, no, I'm not going to wear it.
I wonder if they really are pulling the piss.
Yeah,
anyway, so
it is.
I hate to cut you in here, but we do need to quickly jump onto a message from our sponsors, because obviously they do keep the lights on here. Travis Carter and Carter's Corner. We've got Bill across the road from us, and on the phone all the way from the Health Australia Party, we got Bass on the phone as well. So please stick around, and we'll be right back after this. Carter's Corner. Travis Carter, obviously. We got Bill across the road with us, and we got Bass on the line. Bass, welcome back. Thank you for being with us today. You've been absolutely awesome. Now, I have to say, I think that's one of the song I just played was Tom Petty, Free Falling, and I think it's one of the songs that always get stuck in my head for free balling. Talking of free balling, I've heard the new US president has taken to wearing 2 masks.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Talk about free ball. No. So, but what's the purpose of wearing 2 masks? Like, is it to make yourself look like a fool?
In the context of what you're saying, maybe he's wearing one over his forehead.
Oh, that was not me. Okay, I like that one.
Raw but funny.
Yeah, very raw.
Yes.
So it's awesome. Now, we do get, so just so the listeners are clear, so we've got the Facebook you can look us up on, so Carter's Corner on the good old Facebook. The logo is like a picture of a microphone. I think medical's in my brain today. You can look us up on the YouTube, so just look up Travis Carter. There's a picture of myself and my daughter. Really super, my all-time favorite photo, so I had to use it for it. And obviously you can listen to the station live, 897fm.com.au. Now, on my stalk book, I did get a personal message sent through to me, and someone has actually asked us, you guys mean the Australian Health Australia Party, and also with the recent, I say recent, like last year or the year before, the legalization of medical cannabis coming through. There's been a bit of a call recently that kind of got swamped out with the whole COVID thing. There's a lot of people who want to start I don't know if decriminalizing is the right word for it, but
legalization.
Yeah, delegalization of marijuana, especially in regards to medical uses, treatment of depression, anxiety, and things like that, and also for people who do suffer terminal cancer to help deal with the nausea, vomiting, and all that they're dealing with. So with the Health Australia Party, have they got much of a stance on that? Definitely.
There is a very big important role that nature plays in our health. So when we talk about health, it's not about just being free of disease. We need to think about a holistic approach where it's a healthy being that has a healthy body, mind, spirit, and even culture. And so, of course, hemp or cannabis or CBD oil is very important, and it does play a role. Like you said, cancer is one of those things. And what a lot of people don't understand with especially CBD oil, the benefits that it has, and it doesn't have any, so people don't get high or anything like that, because people quite often ask that question. There's some really great benefits in using herbs and in using nature and in coming back to the essence of as a tribe, as a human tribe. Of course, these are the things that we've done until somebody said it's not a good idea, and then we become a society of prescription or subscription.
Okay.
And it's yep. So we actually have a policy to be direct in answer. There is a policy on cannabis, and we it would be something that we'd proudly want to work on with obviously the right people. We've got the right research. There's enough scientific backing on what we're talking about here, and it is something we're very passionate about.
So just to be clear, NWA, we have already decriminalised medical marijuana. You can go down to your doctor, get a script for it. It's extremely long process, very expensive. It's not on the Medicare rebate system yet, but there's also a bit of been a push because alcohol is a very, very bad substance. Alcohol addiction, the domestic violence that is caused through alcoholism and stuff like that is really, really bad. There's been a massive push to decriminalize marijuana. Hey, let's get high and happy marijuana, not just the medical cannabis.
Oh, you mean the smoke side of it?
Yeah, the smoke side of it as well. So obviously you guys are supportive of the medical side of things. What's your stance on the normal, everyday, go down to the corner and go buy it when you're in Rockingham marijuana side of things?
I'll probably talk more about my own personal stance. I still think smoking anything is not really healthy for you. But if we were to compare it to what you were saying about alcoholism and people abusing alcohol is probably a worse of a drug. And that's quite legal. It's on every corner with a bottle shop. And the only thing that governments currently have on it is, we'll tax people higher to deter that. Well, we know that doesn't work. And
we love
and
our beers.
Obviously, we do love our beer.
So,
as long as it's within reason, I think that the big thing that a lot of people don't realize, the danger with alcohol is, it does actually alter your brain chemical balance. This is why it changes your metabolism, alters your perceptions, but it does over time have a huge. There's people that have taken lots of alcohol, and if they cut it out, they could have a mild schizosis sort of episode. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. So that's how dangerous it can be.
Yeah, I've got an uncle who's enjoys his alcohol a little bit too much. So if you have a look at places like, and this is the reason I was leading into this question, is the government has to try and find a way to dig ourselves out of this economic hole that we've created. The amount of tax revenue we get from alcohol is staggering. It's huge. The amount of tax revenue we get from cigarette smokes is huge, but also you then have the offset on the health burden that it's creating. So I read a report once that 3 out of 4 people have either tried cannabis or is currently smoking cannabis on a regular basis. The amount of tax revenue, especially in Australia, if you decriminalised it, regulated it, taxed it, the amount of revenue we could generate for the government is astronomical. It's huge, the amount of money they could make from this. And that would be a really great stepping stone to get into clearing some of this debt that the COVID has caused for us. So there has been, like I said, there's been a few questions about on my old Facebook page. In past shows, I have spoken about it before. On my stance on, I think, like I said, marijuana should be one of those things that are decriminalised and treated the same as alcohol. So there's tax on it. You can't drink and you can't smoke and drive. And I think the California's way they've done it is actually a very, very good stance. So it's a good way to clear some of these debts. So we're coming up for 35 minutes past 7. Is there anything else, because we've got to wrap up in a minute, is there anything else that you really, really want to get out there leading into your election coming up? My understanding is nominations actually close on the 13th to become a candidate. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I think it's actually the 12th. So from the 3rd to the 12th.
Yes, you're right. It is the 12th. The Friday is the 12th. 13th is the Saturday.
Yeah, and then obviously there's another step in that process, and I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but on the 15th, another thing closes, which is all the preferences that the parties have for one another. And I don't think enough people kind of understand that process. But it is an important one for people to educate themselves on, I think, because it can alter all sorts of different things.
Especially in the upper house. The preferences are super important in the upper house. So that's the Legislative Council, and that's where you're running in the agriculture region.
Exactly. And so probably what I'd like to talk about is the Health Australia Party has those 5 pillars, and anybody could look up our policies and what we stand for through healthaustraliaparty.com.au, and just become familiar with who's running, who are the candidates in their region. Feel free to email us on the WA branch email. And, the idea, what I think Health Australia Party stands for, is something that we've been missing for a long time, which is a community spirit within politics. And that's how I've seen it. So I was in community TV, like you guys are in community radio, and I became very passionate about being the voice for community. And I interviewed Health Australia Party's WA president and state secretary, and actually really sensed that they're real people, real red-blooded people, human beings that care about other people, that care about their family's future, their children's future, their grandchildren's future, and they want good things for the community. They're not institutionalized, lifelong politicians that have a particular drive that is, towing the party line. And we've seen other parties, when somebody steps up and actually listens to what the community and starts to express it, how they try and pull them back in line, and the media, the mainstream media, crucifies them, right?
Well,
and
it's
so,
very interesting you say something about that. We do have a special guest for later in the show. I won't spoil it now. And I've actually got a bit of a story to tell for everyone after we finish with our next guest about the media and how they try to crucify people who step off party lines. So
yes, that's been in the recent headlines with Craig Kelly, for example, without mentioning too many names.
It's not Craig Kelly, by the way. I'd love to get Craig Kelly on, but they haven't said to come on the show yet. So no, it's more local. So,
well, that's where I developed my passion. After giving them a chance to voice their opinions and hearing what they've got to say, I realized there's actually a lot of values that align. And I've always been one to shy away and not really care much for politics, because it seems like it is really heavily controlled by the two bigger players, the red and the blue. And it's kind of a monopoly in my view. And when you do go to vote, you look at it and go, which is the lesser evil here?
Yep.
And I hate that feeling. So after meeting Health Australia Party, it gave me the feeling of there's actually a hope and a real choice here for healthy people that are really genuinely interested in taking care of other people's health and the community and the families in that community. And that's why I look at them more of a community-spirited party rather than a political party that's the traditional sense. We're not out to try and put anybody down to make ourselves look better. We're focused on the solutions that we can bring. And in my case, it's the farmers. We've really got to care for the farmers that are in isolation, which leads to, mental health, stress. They've already got many things that they're battling with in terms of, soil, water issues. But now with these border closures, they're dealing with unemployment. So they're dealing with, they can't get the right labor at the right time. Some farmers have expressed to me that certain things, like lettuce, for example, if they're not taken out of the ground as quickly as possible when they're ready, they all go off basically all black and can't be sold or used. So it's things like that. And if we listen more to these farmers, because what a lot of people are missing is the connection between health, nutrition, and agriculture, and how mutual that is, and the effects that they have on each other. If you don't have the right nutrition in the food, how do we get nutrition within the human body?
Yep. And the one thing else I want to add to that is a vast majority of Australians are extremely proud to be Australians. And you've got to remember, Australia was created off the back of our farmers. So the wool industry and all that sort of stuff. So these guys who are struggling now, they need their help. So one thing, because we are now right up on time, we do need to get a message from our sponsors. But one thing I do need to really put out there to the listeners today, if you're upset with Labor and the Liberals, but you don't know who to vote for because you don't know if any of these other smaller parties can actually manage government, stuff like that, remember one thing. Every single primary vote that someone gets, whether it's a minor party or major party, whoever, as long as they get 4% primary, the government pays them back about $2.50 per vote. So when you're looking at the federal seat of Brand, there was 106,000 people in there. So Madeleine King, who won the seat, I think she got 44% in the primary vote. So she's looking to claim back anywhere up to, about, let's say, 40,000 by $2.50. So you're looking between $80,000 to $90,000, and that's just one seat in the federal election. Then with the state election, you've got all the minor seats below it. So if you really, really, really want to send a message to all the majors out there to stop just looking at us as a cash cow and start looking to represent us again, send them a message. Vote number one in people like the Health Australia Party or the miners out there. I think there's no mandatory vaccination in the West Australian Party. It doesn't really matter, because what happens is you're taking, every time you vote for a miner or an independent before you vote for the majors, you're giving them money back so they can run again, first of all, and you're taking that money away from the majors so that they can abuse the system less. And then you put whoever you want in government as number two, because if the miner doesn't get in, your vote flows down in the lower house. So you still don't get the government you want, except you're sending a very loud and a very clear message to the majors: enough's enough. Start representing us, otherwise we don't start putting these miners in. And so that's the last thing I want to really, really stress. So Bass, you've been phenomenal. Anything comes up in the future, make sure you give us a call. We'll get you back on the airways.
Well, I've enjoyed this so much, Travis. I want to do another segment with you. Maybe we can educate people how to vote, because a lot of people are confused about how to fill in the papers.
Yeah, it's terrible. But what I think with that one, I'm more than happy for you to come in once the lockdown's up. We'll get you into the studio. And then what we also think is we need to... definitely do it, but we'll do it after, because I've got to do the draws for your ballot position, and then we can actually use your seat as an example, and we can just run through the figures. So if you vote here and he doesn't get in, or it's a gay lady and she doesn't get in, so this is what happens with your votes and stuff like that. So you can actually walk us all the way through it. So again, make sure you follow it up on the Facebook. So for mine, it's Carter's Corner on the Facebook. Bass, do you have your own political Facebook?
Yes, it's just Bass Tadros, so Bass, and then my surname Tadros, Tadros, and you'll find a public figure page on Facebook.
Fantastic. So make sure you jump out there. Facebook is shocking for the algorithm. So even if you're not a Health Australia Party, please give it a like and a share, because it starts tricking the systems, and it starts helping people like Bass getting out there, get their message heard and stuff like that. So fantastic, Bass. Thank you very, very much for coming on today. We're going to jump over to a message from our sponsors, and we'll have Charles Smith, member of the Legislative Council for the West Australia Party, up after this. So this is Carter's Corner, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, we're back on Carter's Corner with Bill across the road from me, Travis Carter here in the driver's seat, and on the phone we have, all the way from probably his house somewhere, we've got Charles Smith from the WA Party, the Honourable Member of the Legislative Council. Charles, can you hear us?
Good evening, Travis. Hello, everyone.
That blew my ears. That was a little bit loud. Welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be back.
So just so the people know, I think this is your third or your fourth time you've actually come on the show?
Yes, I think it's number 3.
Number 3. We don't have to start getting you a membership because you're here so often.
Well, exactly.
Why not? Well, it helps the community, and as far as I know, you've been pretty much blacklisted from all media across Australia. So, bugger it, why not? If they don't like you, we'll put you on.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so now, got a question for you. I don't know if you've been watching the news lately. There was a Liberal person who decided to... She dared talk to the general population, and she wrote an article about some of the stuff that she was concerned about, and that the general population was concerned about. And then the Liberal Party decided to throw her under the bus.
Yes. Yeah.
So is this something that you see a lot? Because you are a member of Parliament. You got voted in 2017 into the Legislative Council. Do you find the majors have a habit of just... if there's someone in the party they don't like, they just, we're done with you, throw you out under the bus, disendorse you for just daring to...
Well, look, I think, election times are often very, very frantic, right? Where we have many people coming into these major parties, in fact, all parties. They're keen on politics. They want to have their say and express what's on their mind. And oftentimes, of course, especially for the majors, Travis, these people are off message, right? So unfortunately for Andrea, who I know, of course,
I was trying to keep the name out of it, but...
right. She was a little bit off message for the Liberal hierarchy, and for her, unfortunately, she pays the price. I think I was disappointed on her behalf. I think I think she was treated pretty badly, and that's just the way modern politics is. You have to play the line.
Yep. So the thing that I found really interesting, she did a press conference outside Parliament House. It was about 2 hours before Mark McGowan, as I've come to know him as Mao Gowan, because I personally feel he's acting very much like Xi Jinping and Chinese Communist Party. So same day he put WA into lockdown. This is probably why it didn't get more of coverage. She did host a press conference, and there was a little gentleman there by the name of Jeff Parry from Channel 7. Did you have a chance to see that press conference? Press conference.
Yeah, very briefly. Yes.
Yeah. What do you think of his behaviour? Because you get to deal with the media on a regular basis in your roles within Parliament House. Is this something that happens regularly?
Well, mate, I don't know who Jeff Parry is, but if he belongs to one of the major networks like Channel 7 or whatever, then
he does.
Obviously, they're obviously Channel 7 appear now to be sort of promoting the West Australian Labor Party more than any other party.
Mm-hmm.
And if the standard layperson, the everyday West Australian, just watches Channel 7, you will see the incredible bias that show demonstrates, right? It's laughable. I mean, I watched it last night, and they won't even give the Liberal Party any major say on air. It's like, we'll laugh at the Liberal Party, then we'll go back to the Labor Party and say how great they are. It's just ridiculous reporting what's going on at the moment, mate. It really is. And unfortunately, that lady was absolutely vilified by the mainstream media because they couldn't deal with the message she was trying to put out.
Yeah, I have to say I'm really, really proud of one thing with the West Australian people. Apparently his Twitter account, and he is from Channel 7, he's been absolutely slammed, and I mean crucified on the good old Twitter. And I think it's fantastic. Not many people know this. I was actually at that press conference. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun and games, and I'll talk about it. I'm going to do an opinion piece later in the show about it.
Sounds dangerous.
It'll be entertaining, that's for sure. So Jeff had a very few choice words to say for me about this show, so I just want to address some of the things that he said at the press conference. So we'll get to that later. Now, Charlie, we do have an election coming up. The nominations are ending very, very shortly.
This week.
Yep, this week, correct. How is the WA party going about getting... Because one of the big problems that a lot of the minor parties have, because they don't have the money to pay people to be volunteers, stuff like that. How are you guys getting all the seats filled? Do you think you'll get all the seats filled this year?
Well, obviously we have all the legislative council seats filled.
Yep.
Okay, so that's a major task done. That's great. That's obviously the major priority for our party, is getting into the legislative council or the upper house to be some sort of opposition to the Labor government.
Yep.
Who, according to the polls, I'm sure you're aware, are going to romp home something like 46, 7, 8, 9% of the primary vote will be going to the Labor Party.
Yeah. So this is
actually dangerous to our democracy.
Yeah. So
meaning if they control the Assembly and the Council, then they have complete control of Parliament, and there will simply be no checks and balances on what this government is going to be doing, which obviously is a concern to many, many people. So I would say to the people out there who are listening to you, it may be a wise idea, if you like what McGowan has done, but vote something else in the upper house to maintain checks and balances.
Oh, definitely.
That is our job. That is our job, and we must do it.
So a lot of people... sorry to cut you off there, Charlie. So a lot of people don't understand the difference between the lower house and the upper house. So with the lower house, what their job is, and this is very summary, it's as close as to explain very quickly. The lower house holds government. So Labor's got more seats, lower house, than Liberal, so they've formed government. So a vast majority of bills and acts that get passed will come from the Labor Party. So they'll be making the laws. And then what happens is they go to the upper house where Charles is, and they go through, they audit the bills, make sure they're the right thing for the Australian people, and then they can discuss it, they debate it, and if there's something wrong with the bill, they send it back down to the lower house to get fixed. So your job is very important. You're effectively an auditor for Australian laws.
That's right. So the Assembly forms government and creates all the new laws that come through the Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
It's our job to review those laws to make sure they're the best they possibly can be.
Yep.
Correct.
So now, with the listeners out there, if they do want to get involved with the West Australia Party, they want to help out because, like I said before, you don't have the money to pay for volunteers, stuff like that. What's the best way for them to get in contact with the West Australia Party to be able to help out?
Sure, you can jump on the Facebook page, the website, or you can come onto my Facebook page and just message me.
Yep.
And all help is always gratefully received.
Yep.
Gratefully received.
Okay, fantastic. So what's the...
Some people should be seeing us on television. We've managed to do some television advertising on Channel 9 at the moment. We should be on Channel 7 next week.
7's actually going to show you? Wow. Sorry,
Encouraging.
I used to love Channel 7 until about a week ago. And it seems like I keep picking fights with the journalists. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, we'll get back to that one later.
You're doing a good thing. You're holding these journalists to account. That's an important thing.
Bill doesn't know about my run-in with Gary Ashid. I think that's how you say his name. I had a bit of a run-in with him about 12 months ago as well.
And who's he from?
Channel 9. He's the chief political reporter for Channel 9.
Well, how do you have these run-ins? What are you saying to these people?
Well, I didn't say nothing. He's the one that tried to get the police to kick me out of Parliament House. But we'll get to that later. So anyway, going back to the WA Party and Charles, what's something big that you're working on at the moment that you'd like to tell people what's going on?
Something big?
Yeah.
Well,
so what's something you're trying to get achieved before the election gets finalised?
Well, there's loads of things we're trying to get achieved, of course. Obviously, we want people to vote for us, in the Assembly and in as many as in the Council, the upper house. We need to get back in that chamber and really be a good quality opposition to the Labor Party.
Yeah.
Right? That's a vital task. In addition, people need to know what we stand for. So, really, we stand for putting West Australia and West Australians first in all things. Right? Our main focus is on jobs for West Australian locals first and increasing wages. Right? That's the main priority for West Australian people. Our wage growth is the lowest in the whole country. It has been for many years. And that's something that really needs to be addressed, and no one seems to give a damn about it. So we are for jobs first for West Australians and for increasing our wages.
Do you have a quick question for you on the job side of things? A lot of my family work in mining. So, and I can tell you now, a lot of them are absolutely livid that all their penalties have been removed and stuff like that. I think I've spoken to you about this before, and it's a bit of a federal issue because obviously on the state base you can't change tax rates. They'd love to see a flat tax rate across the board, but that's for the federal election possibly in August this year. So what's something for people who they work far up north, like the FIFO workers and all that sort of stuff? What's something that the West Australian Party can do to try and ease the burden for the ones that are stuck away from their family, they're working away, they're effectively maintaining this state while everything else is getting locked down?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by what we can do for them, Travis. I mean, for the fly-in, fly-out situation.
Yep.
I mean,
is there something we can do, like reintroducing? Because I know when I used to work in Port Hedland with Twiggy Forrest, we used to get working away from home allowances. We used to get working above the 26 parallel allowances. Depending on if you were working on the actual wharf with the ships, you used to get danger pay. All of that's been scrapped away. So a lot of the guys, they've still got their same base wage and all that sort of stuff, but they've lost all their allowances. So is that something that the WA Party can help get reinstated for the mine site workers?
Well, I don't think it sounds like state issues, to be honest. I mean, it sounds like a federal campaign around the taxation system and stuff like that. But with regards to fly-in, fly-out, I mean, we do support fly-in, fly-out around remote mine sites and so on. We would like to see in the regions more people living in those regional towns and get those growing to what they were before the onset of fly-in, fly-out. We want to see those regional towns flourish once more, where you can safely raise and live with your family and have a normal, lovely life and bring up those children in beautiful spots out in the bush, rather than, for example, farmers being absent for weeks at a time and the ongoing social issues surrounding absent fathers and so on. And the knock-on effect to relationships and their children, which if you live in Perth, in suburbs which have a high degree of fly and fly out, you'll see those problems very, very obviously. So that's something we would like to address and bring to the table.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, that.
So what we do need to do, I just checked the time, we're actually 7 minutes past when we're supposed to do our messages. So we're going to jump into a quick message from our sponsors, and I've actually put the messages in the right spot this time. I'm very, very rusty. I haven't done this for about 8 weeks now. So we will go to a message, and when we come back, we'll still have Charlie on the phone from the West Australia party. You've got Travis Carter, we've got Bill across the desk, and this is Carter's Corner. And we're on Carter's Corner. I was going to say we're back again, but, you know, I've done that, and I can hear Aaron, the old cross-the-board person, just shaking his head like, ah. Anyway, Carter's Corner, Travis Carter, we got Bill, and on the phone, hopefully we haven't lost him, Mr. Charles Smith, WA Party.
Yes, I'm still here. How are you?
Still here. Awesome. So, Charles, a couple of the topics we've been talking about tonight with most of our guests has been a bit of a controversial piece of legislation. It's underneath the West Australian Health Act of 2015, I think it was, from memory. In particular, it's Section 158, Part C, in regards to a non-elected person, the health minister, the chief health officer, can assign an untrained person, a health officer, to pretty much go into your home without a warrant and force you by the police to undertake any medical procedure that they deem fit. Now, a lot of people and these are the people who are very anti-vaccination. Now, just to be clear for the listeners out there who think I'm an anti-vaxxer, I am not. I am actually vaccinated. My kids are vaccinated. I do not get the flu vaccine because I think it's pointless for me. And it should be safe for the people that it will help. And that's my excuse not to take it. But this COVID vaccine, I do not feel is being tested enough. So I would like to see more rigorous testing to make sure that no one gets hurt. Now, the Western Australia Party, I'm not sure if you're allowed to answer this one on behalf of the Western Australia Party, or can you answer this one on your own part? Because obviously different parties have different rules and regulations. What's the WA's party stance? Do you think it's good having a law like this where there's no checks and balances on it?
Mate, what I will say, Travis, is if this particular section within the Act is ever enabled, it will be a sad day for our society indeed.
Oh, it definitely will be.
Sad day.
It'll be a very sad day. Well, actually, they are. Could you class the I call it nasal rape. The test, PCA test, where they cram it up your nose.
Invasive.
Yeah. Could you count that as a procedure? Because there is that WA couple who were coming back from Queensland.
Obviously, it's obviously a type of a medical procedure.
Yeah.
Whether that falls under the definitions and meaning of that particular clause within the Health Act, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, because there was that West Australian couple.
My
who
procedure,
back,
yeah.
And they
My
got
procedure,
given, I think it was 24 hours to present for the testing, and they said no, we're not doing it.
Right.
So they could be forced by police to get the PC. I think it's PCA. I can't remember the lyrics. So if someone can send us PCR testing, if anyone's got an update on that, did they actually get forced to do the test? Because they may have already forced it.
I don't know, but obviously this particular section within the Act has started to gain some notoriety within social media circles over the last sort of 6 to 12 months since COVID spread throughout the world. So whether the government will openly say they are using this particular section, I don't know. I don't think that they would ever reveal that they are using it. However, as you're suggesting, they may be doing it clandestinely with forcing people to undergo a test of some nature. Mate, I just don't know.
Okay. Does it get spoken much in Parliament House, or is that something that's very hush-hush behind closed doors within Labor and they just don't want to talk about it to anyone else?
Well, a good year or so, the Parliament decided to go with these emergency provisions, right, which gives them all sorts of special powers under the Emergency Act. And that's what we're under right now with lockdowns and this mask wearing business. So all that's there for the government to use. I think, as I said just now, I think it will be a sad day for us to go any further than where we are now.
Okay, we have just had a question from a listener. So, hello, listener. The question is abortion a procedure possible to be mandated under Section 158? Is amputation a procedure possible under Section 158? The biggest problem with that one I can see is that they don't say what procedures are possible.
No, it just says medical procedures.
Yeah, and that could be a lobotomy.
So we'd have to look under definitions within the Act, which I don't have with me.
Castration.
Definitions may well be within the Act.
So, it's shocking because, the first time I read it, it's like, no, that can't be real. And then I read it again, and no, it didn't go away. The more I read it, it's definitely there. So it is a shocking piece of legislation, my personal feeling, and I think the person that wrote it just didn't really understand what they were putting in there. I don't think it was intentionally put in there that negatively, but then you start looking at how they're trying to ban cash and do all this other stuff. And like the Greek was saying, I don't know if you heard earlier, we had a person call in from Greece, and they were saying this has been an ongoing thing where they're slowly been eroding and making all these policies, and once you like on their own, like saying, right, we can give you a vaccination, it's not that bad, it's a vaccination, it's fine. And then you add.
Well, I also understand. Yeah, I also understand we're soon going to be having COVID passports on our mobile phones or something similar. Have you seen that?
Yes,
yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
I don't know where this train stops, mate. To be honest.
Exactly. So Qantas has already jumped on it, and they're leading the charge. And he's already openly said, if you're not vaccinated, you're not flying. So at what point does a corporation get to start dictating policy to the government?
Well, it shouldn't, and it doesn't, but this is the reality of modern party politics. These big corporations are very, very influential in public policy making. Yeah, and this guy, Joyce, is just another one of them. Here in Western Australia, we have powerful lobbies also dictating or influencing what policy is created. And you just look at the property industry as just one example. I think we had just in the media lately, we had Saturday saying he's going to be a Labor Party donor and he's raising money for them. I mean, and what does this guy get in return? That's how lobbying works, right?
Yes, it does. Now, I just remembered the last time you were on the show, you were talking about some of the policy bills that you were putting through and trying to fight at the moment with the property tycoons. Have we had any success in your campaign to start fixing the Western Australian property debacles?
Well, there are many grassroots groups around at the moment. For example, Save Perth Hills, which is fighting against the North Stoneville development. We have Save Ocean Reef, which is fighting the big high-rise and building of a marina in Ocean Reef. Okay, so it seems that this government is very, very keen to carry on going with development really at any cost. And of course, I would say this is quite hypocritical from the Labor Party. In opposition, they played themselves as environmentalists, campaigning against Row 8 and so on. In government, obviously, they are now developers and they are just trashing the suburbs. I mean, this is what people need to be aware of, right? How governments operate, how they're influenced. And it's obvious they are influenced by property developers. Big property are supporting this Labor government. It's obvious. And they donate to this Labor Party. And what do they get in return?
And the amount of money that
that's how lobbying works.
Donate is huge. It's astronomical, the amount of money they donate. So just running with the...
So for the party itself, in terms of development and planning, we would like to see some degree of what we call third-party appeal rights in planning decisions, which means the community itself affected by that development has a say in how the suburb is managed and planned. Right? You wouldn't think that's too big an ask, would you?
Well,
But the
considering
major parties refuse to support that.
especially considering
Why?
it's the local residents that pay the rates that pay for the state government, the local government to control everything and do all the planning and stuff like that. They should definitely
Well, how
have
it
a
works,
say.
I think how it works, Travis, right? So the developer comes in, he builds a suburb, does a high rise, sells it off. All the gains stay with that developer. Everything else the community pays for.
Yep.
Roads, schools, hospitals, so on and so on. We all pay for it, and they walk away with their huge amounts of profit. That's simply unacceptable. So we're also proposing what we call a betterment or rezoning levy on developers who land bank huge amounts of land, wait for it to be rezoned by their mates in government, make a ton of money at a tick of a pen, and that goes into their pocket. We're saying that actually belongs to the local community, and we want to see it redirected back into local government to pay for that infrastructure required.
You know what? That's something I can support. I think that's a very
that's
smart,
very good.
smart piece of legislation. So hopefully there's someone from Labor, Liberals, or possibly a couple of independent people might be listening into the show, and that might be something other than COVID that we can sit down and have a discussion about. Now, I have been getting my ever so awesome producer Dwayne doing a bit of fact checking for us, and he's pulled up the 2015 Health Act. There's actually no definition in it for what a procedure is. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so, if you want to cut someone's leg off, cut an ear off, or change the colour of their eyes for, why not? And you're one of the health officers, well, under this legislation, you're allowed to. So I will...
So it seems. I mean, I think that this is... I don't know when this was put in 2015, so that would be a Barnett government agenda from memory.
And we know how great the Barnett government was. I got a quiet little chuckle out of Bill, so... So anyway,
The who?
The Bill. No,
who were they?
What the Barnett government? I actually don't know what they actually did. I think they started row 8. Did they start row 8?
I think they did. They did.
I know they did a few. They squashed Okajee up in
Geraldton. It's just like the Liberal Party decided that it was all too hard and they'd go home and watch TV instead of doing anything.
Yeah. So we have actually gone over our sponsor message breaks a bit, so I do need to go jump into a message again. Before I let you go, Charlie, is there anything else you want to say, especially coming up to the election? Last words before we let you go for the night, so you can enjoy a nice cup of tea.
If you value your job before Eastern States workers, before international workers, please vote for the Western Australia Party. We support local jobs for local workers, particularly in the resource industry. Right? We are over-reliant on importing people in the state to come and do jobs. The government, despite closed borders, are still importing people into the state. Okay? We have to prioritise local people first. Train and employ locals. If you believe and support that, put us first on the ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. Even put them first anyway. Let's say you do want a Liberal government or you want a Labor government. Send a message to them that enough's enough. Put the minors first. People like the West Australian Party, the Health Australia Party, No Mandatory Vaccination Party. There's a whole... Apparently, there's more minor parties this year, this WA state election, than there has been in a very, very long time. I don't know if it's ever, so I'm not going to say that, but there's a lot. There's so many choices and options to choose from. So please put the minor parties first. Really give it to the red and the blue. Stick it to them and say, no, you're not taking my money. I worked hard for that money. I paid taxes on that money, and you're not taking my tax money for just because you can. So, Charlie, again, wonderful having you. Hopefully next time we can actually get you into the studio, because it's so much more fun when you're in the studio. So, mark me down. Please let us have guests again. So this is Carter's Corner. We're going to go to a quick message and a song, and then we'll be right back. Wow, I am rusty. So Carter's Corner here again. Travis Carter. We've got Bill across the road from us. Oh, I forgot to press stop on the playlist. Oh, God, I'm a legend. Bill shaking his head at me. So, young man with 40-plus years of experience.
That's all I seem to do, shake my head.
Yeah.
Shake a bone.
Oh, it's fun and games. It's fun and games. Now, that's actually not a bad segue. So, it's time to get serious here. Now, fun and games that we had, I think it was the 31st of January. So everyone heard of the lockdowns for the state government, what they did in Australia. So there was a little press conference beforehand. So there was a young lady who copped a heap of slack at that press conference, and it wasn't just from Jeff Parry, it was from all sides of the media. The media at that time, I think, their behavior was disgusting. So, and unfortunately, this was totally accidental on my part. I had no intentions to do this. So I think it's really important to tell everyone what actually happened and so they can understand, because this press conference went live and I was listening to the WA Today, I think it was, and apparently over 350,000 people watched it live. So this wasn't just a little splat. This went viral across WA. So what happened is I got forwarded a press release from Andrea Tokaji, and I really apologize. I keep butchering the name. Tokaji. Yeah, Tokaji. And so what happened is at Carter's Corner, we have a media list of all the journalists across WA, New South Wales, Queensland. I think there's about 250 names, email addresses on that list. So to help her out, because she's now an independent, she doesn't have the backing of the Liberal Party anymore, we forwarded it out to all the media contacts that we had through all our different actions in the past. And so what was supposed to be myself, my producer, and a couple of other people there to help and support her, we ended up having Channel 7, Channel 9, ABC, West Australian, The Australian, a couple of independent journalists, a few, they're called ringers, so they don't work for anyone in particular, but they go do their own stories and they sell off the stories later on. There was a good maybe 20 people there from all different media, full on cameras, the whole 9 yards. It was awesome. It was so exciting because me growing up, I actually grew up watching Channel 7, and I thought Channel 7, like Sue and Rick and all that, I actually got to meet them, and because I used to work in the entertainment industry and the cafes and all that sort of stuff, so I've actually had a chance to meet these guys. And I used to only ever watch Channel 7 News, and I was really, really happy with it. And the excitement I had coming to, I was so, you know, when you're so excited, you're shaking. Like, that's what I was like. I was absolutely ecstatic to be there. And so Andrea come out, she's doing her thing, she was doing her statement, you know, it was going fantastic. We were getting some really good footage for it, for Carter's Corner. And then all of a sudden, she started accepting questions. And the bit that I was really the most disappointed is how quickly the pack turned. Like, it was just a snap on dial, they're sitting there smiling, nodding, and then all of a sudden, just bang, it was just like a pack of wolves onto her hair. Like, it was absolutely amazing to watch. And the only time I've ever seen something that come anywhere near this was when David Koch and Darren Hinch attacked Pauline Hanson on the Today Show after the Christchurch media. They had no interest whatsoever in what she was to say. They were just there to attack. They wanted blood, and this pack, and it wasn't just Jeff. I have to be 100% clear on this. It wasn't just Jeff. There was this little short dude with brown hair, just kept butting in, cutting her off, just kept asking questions over the top of her. It was disgusting. I was really, really disappointed in the way the Western Australian media behaved on that day. And the bit that caught me out the most, I didn't know any of these guys except Gary from Channel 9, because me and him, I was at a family children's rights rally when that guy punched the cop and put him in hospital. And we were at Parliament House doing a peaceful protest in regards to preventing male suicide. So we didn't even know he was doing a press conference. We were just there. So he tried to kick us off the premise and said, we're here for peaceful protests. And he said, and he tried to get, I'll call security, rah, rah, rah. And I said, that's fine, go call security. You know what? There's police here. Go get the police. And so he tried to get the police to kick us off Parliament House. And so when they said, no, they're fine, they're being peaceful, he called me and my daughter an a-hole, and we caught it all live on video. So from that moment, I didn't like Gary either. And I seem to keep having these run-ins with the Perth media, and they keep really attacking people. And the way they, and I don't care, like, I'm used to it. I get attacked all the time because of some of my political beliefs. But the bit that really, really annoyed me was the way they attacked Andrea. I think it was totally inappropriate. And I think Channel 7, Channel 9, and whatever media the little short guy with the dark hair was from, I think they all need to give her an apology. And to find out how she feels, we've actually got her on the line with us right now. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. Andrea, thank you. And I'm sorry for putting you on hold for so long. I just really wanted to, because one of the accusations that the person from Channel 7 made is that they were claiming I was a part of your campaign.
Yes.
So when was the first time you actually met me?
So, Travis, as you know, we met that morning for the first time.
as you were walking down the stairs of Parliament House, that was the first time I'd ever met you. I'd never spoken to you. I'd never sent you an email. Just to be clear,
That's right.
Who was the person that you did all your correspondence through?
A third party.
Yeah.
And look, I am new to Perth. So this was my first press conference, my first experience of this process. And of course, I called it to try and set the record straight.
Mm-hmm.
The few days prior to the press conference, I had the media hounding me. I didn't get one moment of respite. So I thought, you know what, try and set the tone and call the press conference, try and speak to people rationally, reasonably, tell my story, and just set the record straight. And of course, when I arrived at Parliament House, I set up and introduced myself to everyone, including yourself.
Yeah.
And I was being very professional and polite. And, I expected professional courtesy and respect back.
And I can tell you now, I was at that press conference. It was broadcasted live. So if you do want to have a look at it, WAMN News streamed the whole entire lot live. So, yeah, Bill's looking at me like, oh, my God, that was like,
I got to see that. I want to see that.
It was live. And I was absolutely blown away. Like, I can understand the gotcha articles where someone's doing something really wrong and they've got to go out and get them to bring them to justice. I can understand rudeness on those sort of articles. But this is a press conference to say, hey, this is what happened. This is my side of the stories. Why didn't they just ask you questions? The bit I found, and I'm going to say the O word here, the most offensive, not to me, but to yourself, is the way Jeff turned around and said, I think it was a quote, "What's your relationship to Travis?" Yeah, no, live in front of everyone, shut down the press conference. And sorry, Bill's got a look of dismay on his face. What's your relationship to Travis Carter? And it's like, it's not about me, it's about Andrea. Yeah. And that's the bit that I thought was really, really rude.
Jeez.
Yeah, look, we all know that unfortunately these days the media do construe things, or they look for a headline. Mm-hmm. And in that instance, I just realised that they're not after the truth. They're not after hearing my side of the story. They're not even after due process within democracy. Mm-hmm. This is a political debate of, what standard and freedoms and rights our community can expect. Mm-hmm. It was more about creating their own story if they can't find the dirt that they're looking for on someone. And it was really disheartening for me because, I am a refugee kid. I was born in a communist dictatorship regime. I do not want to see the control and the violation of individual freedoms and rights in this country, and yet we see it slowly slipping away. We're succumb to fear, fear-mongering. And the point of my article was to push back on that and say, hold on a sec, let's have a community conversation of where we're at. Exactly. April 2020.
Yep, exactly.
Globally, there's something wrong with, the global community if we're just accepting this without questioning it. So what should be the threshold? And of course, the media didn't want to discuss that. They weren't concerned about the conversation of human rights and freedoms and democracy. They just wanted blood, and that really disheartened me.
Yep. So the one thing that I found really, really amazing, and again, I'm happy to be attacked. I don't care. A lot of people don't know this. I actually ran a campaign in the electorate of Brand during the federal election. I think the politest thing that ever got said to me while I was running that campaign was that I was the love child of Clive Palmer. So I'm used. I thought it was the best insult I've ever had. So kudos to the person that said it. I think it was hilarious. But Jeff later turned around and reported that you had links to One Nation, and this was totally contrived and made up, and that it was totally untrue. So let's set the record absolutely 100% clear. Do you have any association with One Nation?
No, I never have. And I have no idea where they came up with that fabrication.
I think I can tell you, but I'll tell you that one off air because it's not very flattering to a few people. But we'll get to that one. So me personally, what I'd love to see, I want to see a written apology from Channel 9 because Gary was into it as well. I have to, I've bagged out ABC a lot on this. That the guy from the ABC was actually really good. He was the tall guy with the ginger beard. He asked his question, moved on. It was good. It was the little short guy next to him that was really rude. I'd love to see a written apology from Channel 9. I'd love to see a written apology from Channel 7. I don't care. I don't want it. I want you to get this because the way they behave towards you is absolutely disheartening. Now, the one question I want to ask, after this press conference and the exposure that you got, I don't know if accidentally or deliberately from it, do you think this has helped your campaign as an independent or do you think it's hindered it?
Look, I honestly didn't sign up for this. The trolls have been relentless over the last few days. I mean, they're using every horrible word under the sun, they're throwing it at me, and to be honest, my mental health has suffered. Like, no reasonable person welcomes, such vile hatred. And it's a way of, I believe in free democracy. Mm-hmm. I believe that we should all have freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of conscience, freedom of belief, all of that, right? And so that's what I'm about. But when, within this process, the only reason I got involved in politics is to stand up for those things and fight for those things. Mm-hmm. I never signed up for, constant bullying. Like, my phone just won't stop. And, yeah, there's the argument of don't engage and don't read it, but,
it's impossible.
There are
social
things you need to respond to.
Like, you can't turn off your phone, you can't turn off your social media, especially now that everything's locked down. You can't just, hey neighbour, let's go for a beer or let's go catch up for a coffee. You need to be for the human interactions. You need your phone and you need your social media account. And I can tell you from the comments I've seen on my own personal Facebook page over this, it's insane. And the spread, how quickly it's got out there is what I find really, really fascinating. So I have had a message come through, someone saying not just an apology from Channel 7, but also a retraction of everything that Jeff Parry has said. Because what he's saying is a flat out lie.
Well, let's face it. We all know that a lot of the societal norms of what people think these days, if it's not blessed by the press, if it's not accepted by the press, then and they therefore bag people, it seems to be that it's they are making the decisions how society reacts to things. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I refuse to watch any of the mainstream, 9, 7, 10. I won't watch any of that. I'd call it bullshit, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
We've got the language warning, so it's fine. So if you feel like you need to swear,
a bit like yourself. I mean, I'm not in the public eye. Well, really.
Public ear.
And it just appalls me how the press dictate or they formulate who you are and how you will be seen by the public. It's disgraceful.
Gentlemen, what really frustrates me is the hypocrisy of all of this. Mm-hmm. I mean, our society, advocates for non-discrimination. Mm-hmm. But when you have an opinion different to someone else, all of a sudden you're treated differently. Like, there are so many double standards in our society, it's ridiculous. And the other thing that frustrates me is we've lost the art of political debate in our society, in our community.
True.
Politics is meant to be not only about serving, so that politicians serving their community, representing the public, but also bringing robust discussions to the community for robust, involvement. It's not meant to be an ego trip. It's not meant to be about agendas. And, of course, we know that that's ultimately what it becomes.
Yeah. See, so true. So true. Yeah, I just can't believe how these days, particularly in politics, if you're not happy with the voters' decision, they vote somebody in, then you can go out there and start creating false stories and creating, you can start to say, well, we don't accept the decision of the umpire. We don't like the decision of the umpire. This so ridiculous carry on. I mean, there used to be a day, in a time when a particular party got elected. Well, if it wasn't your party, well, you just got on with it. Okay, you just got on with life.
I think America needs that advice at the moment.
but you're getting dangerous. Look, I've heard the word anarchy thrown around a little bit, particularly in the US, particularly. Yep. But the environment is getting very, very, from what we've heard about Greece, you're starting to see good reason why people would start to use that term and even start to enact that idea, because they're saying, well, no one's listening to us. No one's looking at what our needs are. It's all about somebody else and all of these other corporations and governments and whatever. I'm babbling now. But, I can see how it's dangerous times, particularly where everyone knows that the press is so biased and they're so they're so dangerously directing society these days, because they stand up and say what society, how society should react to something, whereas the vast majority of the people sitting there reading this stuff are saying, well, I don't agree with this. But you don't get a say because the press have the voice. Mm-hmm. They have the delivery.
And the irony of all of this, the irony in all of this is that the left is attacking democracy, which has given them their freedom and right to do what they do in the first place, at the detriment of losing all freedom and rights. Do they realise that?
I don't think they care.
Honestly don't. Yeah, I think Bill's hit it on the head. You don't care. Now, one thing, and this is one of the driving forces why myself, Dwayne, Aaron, who was previously on the show last season, we pushed so hard to get this show on, and a lot of people have said that we're probably a little bit too right-leaning. We are constantly messaging, emailing in talks with Labor and the Greens to come onto the show. We've had a few Liberal people on the show in the past. We got so sick of the biasness and like the one-sidedness and just trying to hide what other people want to say. That's why this show was created. Now, we have pretty much unanimously bagged out Channel 9, Channel 7, and ABC. So I want to throw out an open invite. And I know for a fact that Jeff listens to this show because he's told me my show, and I quote, "No one listens to your show. It is crap." And then he stormed off. So I'm going to throw an open invite out to Jeff Parry. I'm going to throw an invite to Channel 7 and also to Channel 9 and Gary. Feel free to come into the show. I will save you a seat. Anytime you want to be on the show, guys, more than welcome to come onto the show. Even ABC. If you feel that you want to say thanks for a compliment, hey, come on board. If you want to question some of my shows, come on board. I'm more than welcome to open the invitation to you guys and girls to come onto the show. Just like I have with Andrea, like I have with Charles from the WA Party, like Malcolm Roberts from One Nation, he's been on to the show. We had Paul Miles, former Liberal Member of Parliament. So we, at no point have we ever tried to discriminate from people coming onto this show. We even had the president and the deputy president of the South Sudanese Community Association of Western Australia on this show. And by God, that was a good show. It was an awesome show. So these guys, if they don't like what we're saying, well, come on the show. Talk to us about it. Tell us why you don't like it and why you think we're wrong. So, Andrea, do you think they'll take us up? Or do you think Jeff's in the twilight of his career and he just wants to collect his money, pick a few fights with me, and then just retire as a nobody?
You've put the test out for how big their balls are, so we'll see.
As you can tell, I'm not a big fan of Jeff Parry.
No, well, give him a break. Give him a break.
We also had Andrew Miller, the head of the Australian Medical Association, said that he was going to come onto the show, and then he Googled me, and then he pulled out very quickly. So then we had the president of the Australian Royal Australian College of General Practitioners come onto the show as well. And now we've got an independent in Andrea. So we've had pretty much everyone. So Andrea, I need to pretty much wrap this up because the show is coming to a very, very close end. Before we wrap it up, is there anything you want to say to anyone? Absolute open platform. Go to town, my young friend.
Look, I think it's wonderful what you're doing on your program, and we need to all be vigilant in protecting our freedoms and rights in this nation, protecting the process of democracy. I want everyone to actually vote, to make an informed decision when you vote. I want you to talk to your local members, get involved in the political process. The reason why bad laws get passed is because people stop caring about the process.
True.
They disengage.
Very true.
It's so important as a community to make submissions, to go to the inquiries, make recommendations, which I've done as a lobbyist for the last 10 years in several parliaments across Australia, and to continue fighting to protect our freedoms and rights and have a political voice. Political communication is an inalienable right we have written in our Constitution, but it's being tested currently, and we need to protect it. If we don't remain vigilant, it will be taken from us.
So, Andrea, I have to say, I have to give you a formal apology from myself. I had no idea they were going to do what they did at that press conference. Wow, I don't know what to say. Like, I had no idea it would cause this much of a stink within the media within WA, and I'm gutted for it. So I have to wish you best of luck with your campaign. If you ever have anything you want to talk about, feel free to come onto the show. I think it's the least I can do with you to help you out with your campaign on that side of things. And to all the listeners out there, please remember, we've got to stop giving our money, our taxpayers funded money, to the majors. So please, if you want a Labor government, put them number 2. Don't put them number 1 because they're just pocketing your tax money. Again, if you want a Liberal candidate, a Liberal government, put them number 2. Make sure you put independents like Andrea first. We need to send these guys a loud and clear message that we're not going to be taken advantage of anymore. We really, really need to stand up tall. And to be honest with you, Andrea, I think you are doing a stellar job, and keep it up. Keep your chin up. And you know what? If you ever want an event, just give us a call and we'll put it on there.
And you could be the catalyst for change.
Oh, definitely.
You could be that.
Sounds good
catalyst.
to me.
Yep. And again, and Andrea, thank you very, very much for coming on the show today. So good luck with the campaign. And that is Carter's Corner signing out for today.
Bye.
See yous.